Okay, thank you. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the City Council, March 17th, 2020 to order. Madam Clerk, if we could have roll call, please.
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Fish,
Here.
Councilmember Mann,
Here.
Councilmember Sternquist.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Yu,
Here.
Mayor Chavez.
Here. Okay, tonight we're going to have our invocation. We're Jerry Jambazian from Wonder Cleaners and Draperies located at 9136 Las Tunas Drive, who will be providing the invocation. Special day for Jerry.
Yes.
Today is his 50th anniversary as a member of the Temple City Kiwanis Club.
Yes.
Wow.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you joined that, what, as a young teen?
20 something.
All right, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
They're very fortunate to have a person like you
thank you.
for that many years. So
Thank you, Mayor.
You're very welcome. And so remain standing, of course, after the invocation for our Pledge of Allegiance. Jerry?
Sure. Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight to ask your blessing upon this city council meeting. At times we feel so inadequate to come before you with our request. The way we go about our everyday task has changed. Our way of life has been altered. Lord, we know that nothing takes you by surprise, but God, we pray that you would lead those in charge to offer a plan for us to recover, not only as a nation, but the entire universe. Our city and school district have taken measures to protect us, and they give us the best opportunity to recover. Our Temple Station deputies are instituting extra patrols to ensure our safety, especially to the most vulnerable, our senior citizens. Help us, Lord, to be sensitive to those around us, including social distancing, not shaking hands, which seems to be so foreign to us. So, Father, we come before you tonight asking for wisdom, protection, healing, and understanding. We pray that whatever we are experiencing today is not the new normal, but a temporary way of life. We are left with the saying, this too shall pass. It's with a grateful heart, Lord, that we ask all of this from you. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jerry. Now, if you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, it's hard to believe that it was only 2 weeks ago that we were all here and reorganizing. Perhaps if I had known then what I know now, maybe I would have voted no when they asked me to be mayor. But we'll all get through this, I think, very well. So together, it's obviously going to be a struggle, but we'll get through it. So tonight, those of you in the audience and those of you out there in the media may obviously see that we're seated a little differently this evening. And of course, that is to be in compliance with the social distancing rules that have been put in place. It seems to be the catchphrase now, social distancing saves lives. And so we were very aware of that. And so that's why we were set up tonight, and probably in the near future will remain that way. But we're still here to address issues and to hopefully help answer any questions that the public may have. Just before we get started, I just want to reiterate that, the City Council and the staff, of course, are very committed to keeping all of our community informed and prepared. Tonight, you will be able to hear certain steps that we have taken as a city so far and those that we hope to take in the future. And as I mentioned earlier, I think together we will be able to get through this, and I believe really that we will emerge a stronger community. So thank you for your patience, and now we will move on to the order at hand. So ceremonial matters, number 5, we have nothing tonight, no presentations. We'll now move on to public comments. Before I go on to public comments, those of you who have not already filled out a request form, feel free to just come up to the dais or come up to the speaker dais and state your name, and the city clerk will fill out a speaker request form for you. But I do have a couple of those request forms. Jing Lee, you want to come on up?
Good evening, Mayor
evening.
and Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. This is Jeannie from Temple City Express Library. I'm here tonight to update on the county library's closure. So for the safety of our staff and also the customers, all the county library will close till March 31st. Although we're closed to public, our staff will continue working. So you can call the library Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. For any information, service, or resource during this closure. And you still can reach us. So our phone number is 626-285-2136. And during our closure and all the material you checked out, the due date will automatically renew for you. So extend it. And so there will be low late fee for you. So that's at least a peace of mind. And then you can either keep the material until we reopen, or you can put it in any county library book drop. Again, as I said, we still have staff working in the location, so every day we still collect the book from book drop as well. And for the holds, I know a lot of customer concerned about the holds. So we do open couple of several express holds picking up location. The closest to Temple City will be Zosmi and Sengaibo. So you can pick up the holds at their lobby. So if you already have the holds at the express library, you can call us. Our staff will manually change the pickup location to the place you want to pick it up. Or if the hold is outstanding, you can go to our website, which is lacountylibrary.org, log into account and change on your own. So they can route the holds to either Zosmi or Sengaibo or other libraries you like to pick up. And also we are offering the temporary digital library card. You can apply that online. Or if you have difficulty, feel free to call us. We can walk you through. And that's good for 90 days. That will give you full access to all the library's digital offering, including ebook, audiobooks, magazine, movies, TV, homework help, online classes, and many more. And so although we close to the public, however, don't forget we have their digital resource, which you can access 24/7, no matter where you are. Like I mentioned, if you want to read an ebook or listen to audiobooks, you can go to our Overdrive. And if you need watch movie or TV show, and you can use Canopy or Hoopla. And if you want to read digital magazine, you can use RB Digital. And if you want to download free music, you can go to Freego. And I know a lot of school district has been closed, including my family. All my kids stay home. So if you have younger children, you can sign up for Reading Rosie. That gives you ideas for family engagement and early learning opportunities. Or we have a digital children's book collection. It's called Tumble Books. So the whole family can read together. And also, if you have homework, which a lot of, surprisingly, which a lot of students still have homework. So we have the online one-on-one homework help that's available every day from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. The service we call is called the Brain Fuse. So again, all this, you can go to our website as long as your library card, you got the PIN number, you can access all this digital resources as well. If you have difficulty logging, just feel free to call us. Again, we're available to answer any question Monday to Friday, 9 to 6. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Before you leave, it's kind of another example of how quickly things happen. It was just last week we were at our new little library, and
like a ribbon
what
cutting.
a great job all of you have done. But
Yeah.
it looks like you will at least continue to try to keep things going as well. So thank
Yeah.
you for that. And also, did your daughter mention to you?
Oh yes.
Yes.
I was
last,
very surprised.
Yes. So last week I was asked to go and read at Clemenson. I usually do that every year,
Yeah.
and so I was assigned the 4th grade class this year. And I read to them and we talked, and they were asking questions, of course, and this beautiful little girl raises her hand in the back and says, "Do you know who my mom is?" And I said, "No." And so she told me, "Oh, yes, do you know?" Oh, no, she says, "Do you know my mom?" And I said, "Of course I do, yes." So, great. I'm glad she had.
thank you.
you
She
two
knows.
good.
She knows all your bio. She say, the mayor came over.
Yeah, they know
and,
everything
he's
about
a
me.
professor. Yeah,
They
know everything about you.
You know, as I'm talking, they're all on their iPads looking me up, I think, and they knew more about me than I did. So that was interesting, but that's
Yeah.
today's world. But
Yeah.
Great
Thank
class.
you so much for going
Thank
to our
you.
school. They're very excited.
yes, it was
Yeah,
fun. Thank you.
thank you.
So say hi to her.
Okay.
All right,
well,
thank you. Okay, Steve Stafford, you want to come up?
Mayor Chavez, council members, city staff. I heard an announcement from Mayor Garcetti about an hour ago, and he said that what we're doing is working. It's gotten a little better, though we've had more cases. It's not as bad as it seems because the coronavirus is known as the common cold. That's how it started. And it was in dogs at one time. They had a vaccine, and they didn't give it to humans. They wouldn't give it. And what a couple of friends of mine said is the drug company not wanting to lose all the money on all the cold suppressants and that stuff. So they backed off on it. Now we got this. It's not that bad. It's the common cold got stronger. And all we have to do, basically, is let it run its course. That's how they defeated a common cold. The other thing they can do now is what's called pathogen, which is DNA code. I have very strong pathogens. I got a pneumonia shot, bronchitis shot, and a flu shot. And my doctor tested me and said I'm stronger than a lot of other people because of what I did. He's actually taken blood and he's going to use it on some patients. He used it on one patient and the symptoms went bye-bye. And they're into doing this DNA stuff there at USC big time. And they got a drug that they can use that they use on the Ebola virus. They're manufacturing that and the type 2 of that. It's already being in use at USC and USC's two hospitals, Methodist and Verdugo Hills. So I think by the 31st of March, things will start to open up again. I've noticed this in markets. People are just very brazen and trying to buy everything, and they're putting limits on it now. I got hit by a cart this afternoon in produce because I was talking to somebody, and the guy didn't care. He wanted to get what he wanted. But I don't see this lasting more than the middle of April at best. I mean, the cases aren't that bad. They play it up, and 144 in LA is not that bad. I've seen cold epidemics worse than that. I've seen the Hong Kong flu worse than that. This they can defeat. They might not say it, but they have the drugs to do it. One of them is thalidomide. That goes after a virus and a bacterial infection. They used it on me when I was little with my arthritis. And that's probably another reason that when I took all the shots and everything, I'm stronger than anybody else. I hope you all have a nice week, and I hope we get over this soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stafford. Okay, is there anyone else from the audience who wish to speak at this time? Before we leave public comments, I just want to check with the city clerk to see if she's received any public comment emails.
No, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we will now close public comments, and we will move on to the consent calendar. However, before we address the consent calendar, I would like to entertain a motion to move item 9A to the consent calendar.
A motion.
Okay,
Oh.
Councilmember Fish?
Yes, I'll go ahead and motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Fish,
Yes.
Councilmember Mann,
Yes.
Councilmember Sternquist.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Yu,
Yes.
Mayor Chavez.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so all consent calendar items may be approved in a single motion as recommended unless we move for further discussion. Do we have a?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve all items on the consent calendar.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Fish,
Yes.
Councilmember Mann,
Yes.
Councilmember Sternquist.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem You,
Yes.
Mayor Chavez.
Yes. Okay, thank you. We will now move on to item number 8, public hearing, none. We've already moved item 9 to the consent calendar. We will now take on item 10, new business, none. And we will now move on to item 11, update from our city manager regarding the COVID-19 preventative and future actions. City Manager Cook.
Thank you, Mayor Chavez, council members, members of the public. We are definitely in extraordinary times, as we talked about earlier this week. I'd like to touch upon 5 things today, and I'd like to at least hear from the council as to your input, some of your concerns. I know the bargaining unit representatives are here as well. Executive staff is here as well. So let me touch upon, let me go in summary on several things, and then Mr. Reimers will go into some detail. You've been provided with a detailed plan as to how to provide a continuity of service in the Community Development Department. We have already gone through a significant cutback in services at the parks, which you've been informed about, and this today we'll go over that in terms of community development and public works. Today too was the first day we issued senior meals via distribution and takeout. A few little glitches along the way, but it's actually working out very well, and the seniors who are part of that process are very, very appreciative. So thank you to park staff for continuing that critical service to the community. We will also today, the Sheriff's Department, every week we are getting a briefing. The contract city managers are getting a briefing from Sheriff Villanueva, his executive team, and the command staff. One of the directives today to all the contract cities was to do our best to use our contacts and our ability to contact our churches, our nonprofit institutions, to try to find out which members of our community need special help. Essentially, are they shut-ins or are they homebound? So we are beginning that process now and assisting the Sheriff's Department with that list. Mr. Azumi, Mr. Matsumoto, Mr. Haworth, and us, and Mr. Reimers, we're all collaborating together to utilize whatever resources we can. Please, if you can, if you hear of any member of a community that has some challenges of being homebound, please send that information to Mr. Matsumoto, and he'll be the clearinghouse for us so that we can get that to the Sheriff's Department.
Now,
We are
Brian,
still.
I don't want to mean to interrupt you, but so you're directing that information to us if we know of anybody, but are members of the public, who would they contact if they know of somebody?
They can contact, the Sheriff's Department put out a social media blast today. They can contact the Sheriff's Department, or if they have contact with us, they can contact Mr. Matsumoto or Mr. Azumi as well.
Okay, thank you.
So it was mentioned earlier in the invocation by Mr. Jambazian, the Sheriff's Department is increasing patrols. There's no secret to this, and usually when we talk about sheriff patrols, we're talking kind of secretly about, well, we're going to do burglary suppression, and we're not going to tell you where we're going to be. We're going to tell you where we're going to be, where the Sheriff's Department is going to be. They're going to be in the commercial areas. They're going to be near grocery stores and other institutions that are open and providing critical services to the community. City halls, our other community areas, to ensure and maintain the peace. Sheriff Villanueva has done a great job of briefing all the contract city managers, the command staff. They are an important team. They are the critical team member during this time. Captain Flores couldn't make it today, but he did send me a summary, which I sent to all of you, which what I just essentially encapsulated right now. One other item that's been brought up by the community that we'll need, I'd like some feedback on, if I could please, from all of the council members, is parking enforcement. And I'll let you touch upon what you've heard about parking enforcement as well. We continue to do social media. We have our thank you to our staff, Brian, Tinny, and the team members that are helping with a new website, new banner that's being updated. We're playing around with a daily update sheet that we can include. That should be up in the next couple days. We'll see how that looks and feels. We want to provide, the key component of what we want to provide the community with is reliable, accurate information about what is going on. Reliable and accurate. Our primary sources are everybody else's sources, but we want to try to get that to the community as quickly as we can. Yesterday, as a matter of fact, staff and I went out to some of our businesses as a courtesy to remind them of the health department's order regarding restaurants. Most knew, most were complying. There were a few that didn't, and we nudged along the way. The sheriff's department as well is taking an approach of nudging along compliance first. They don't want to use their heavy hand just yet in this process. That defeats the purpose of the voluntary social compliance that we're seeing throughout California and throughout the nation at this moment in time. So that's a key component as well. So with that, I would like Mr. Reimers to kind of give you an overview. You have some of the detail, an overview of what we would propose to do. And we'd like to do that starting proposing tomorrow.
Yes,
Is
good
that
evening.
Is that on one of the handouts that we have?
Yeah.
Which one is it? Do we have that on the screen? We don't have it on the screen, does it?
No, I don't
Okay.
believe so. So you have a handout at the top of it. It's a summary of CDD and Public Works Services during emergency declaration.
Okay.
And then following that are some additional handouts. The last handout that you have is a table that's in landscape format that addresses just those services provided by the Community Enhancement section of the Community Development Department. Within that handout, on page 1, it talks about building and safety. With building and safety, we will still have staff available to answer general questions. It's the format that looks like this, if that helps.
Is that what we're looking at right now?
Yes.
Okay.
It should be the last part of that package.
Yeah, it's a 3-page document.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So for building and safety, we'll still be available to answer general questions. We have staff on site who will be able to answer phones and emails and answer questions. We will still have building inspections occurring. However, if the inspection is in the interior of an occupied structure, those types of inspections will need to be postponed until the event is complete. When it comes to permits and plan checks, we are able to provide those services online. So if someone wants to submit a plan check application, if someone wants to get a permit, we can provide those services online. We have been doing some of that already for solar permits and EV charging stations. So it really was an expansion of an existing system. For planning, we will have staff available to answer zoning questions. We also do have the ability for people to submit planning questions by email, or they can call planning and we can answer those questions. They will be able to submit plans. We will be able to approve plans and issue permits. Most of the planning inspections that occur are external to the structure. So we still will be able to provide a final sign-off for any planning inspections. From the community preservation / code enforcement section, the recommendation is to refocus the staff on reactive enforcement. And what we mean by reactive enforcement is if somebody calls, we would pick up the call, we would open a case, we would send the owner, owner a courtesy notice that a complaint had been received, and then we would follow up with a complaint after this event occurs or is complete. If there is a life and safety concern, then the staff would have to address how to respond to that life and safety concern. What we will not be doing is what's considered proactive enforcement. So what we're recommending is not having staff drive around and looking to open cases. From this, we in community development also have the city operator function. So we will have 2 city operators available from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. so that we'll have a primary and an assigned backup so that people can speak with a live person during those hours.
Are those hours different than what we're doing now, or are those the same, 8 to 5?
Right now, we're open from 7:30 to 6,
Okay,
Monday
so-
through Friday.
I mean, that's when we answer the phone, so.
Yes.
So it's gonna be a little,
It'll be a little bit
less.
reduced.
okay.
For animal control, we've been in contact with San Gabriel Valley Humane Society, who provides our animal control. They will continue to have emergency and after-hour services, and right now, they're planning to continue to have all other services available.
Yeah, we received an email from Cindy
Cindy Bigney.
during the week, yesterday, I think it was actually.
For Public Works, we refer some items to the LA County Public Works Department, things like street lights that aren't working. We will continue to be able to do that. We will continue to perform public works inspections, so if somebody's pouring a new driveway, we will be able to inspect that type of work. And then that type of work would require an encroachment permit. We can take encroachment permits in via the internet or by email, using the same system we use for the building department and for building permits. So we will be able to issue encroachment permits as well. For business license, we will have staff available to answer questions. People can submit applications online. That was something that we developed a few years ago. But if they have any trouble or any questions, we will have staff to walk them through that. We can issue licenses. The system allows us to email licenses to people, or we can mail them out. What we are proposing to postpone are if someone has an unpaid license, that we would postpone enforcement of that. And we would postpone, typically before we issue a business license, we would go out and inspect. Given the circumstances, we would recommend postponing the inspection until we would issue the license and then come back after this event is over and do the inspection.
On the unpaid licenses, you say follow-up will be done after the event, but if someone has an unpaid license, do we normally send them any correspondence by mail or email?
Yes,
And
they-
those will continue, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay.
In terms of parking permits, we also issue the overnight parking permits. Those applications are available online. In December and January, we took in a lot of applications online. We can continue to provide that service, but we're waiting to see how the council takes action on enforcement of overnight parking. The overnight parking permit system we can turn off, and we can turn off the machine outside of City Hall if you so decide to reduce the enforcement of overnight parking.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
In the last maybe 2 days, have we gotten a lot of inquiries about permits for overnight parking?
I have personally received, so the enforcement is not my department.
Okay.
We only issue the permits. We have gotten a few permit requests, and we've asked those people to just wait a day or two and
Great.
see what
That was
decision
my-
you were going
That
to
was my
make.
question. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, are there any, before we move on, is that your report concluded? Okay.
That'll be it for.
So, and do we have anything more? Do you have anything?
I
more?
was that's in terms of operations. I was gonna, in a minute, I was gonna go over and let you know what the Public Works, since Public Works is reporting to me
Okay.
at the moment. I was gonna go over
Would
what.
you prefer to do that now, or do you want to hear some?
I think
feedback
we'd
regarding
prefer to
this?
hear your feedback
I
on
would rather
that.
do it now for this particular issue,
Yeah.
if that's okay with everybody. So, we've all heard the report. Why don't we first ask if there are any questions by any of the council members? And then we
Yes.
can get to any comments or,
Yeah, Mayor Chavez.
Councilmember Mann?
Yeah, just one question, just so I understand clearly. When we say we have staff on site, that doesn't mean that the public's gonna be able to come in and meet with them. It just means they're available physically at City Hall to answer phones and emails, right?
Yes, that's correct. It's our recommendation that to reduce contact, we close the doors of City Hall, but that staff would still be on site and still be available to answer phone calls, answer emails. And then we're looking at other technologies such as Zoom, GoToMeeting, or Skype Business, so that we could even review set of plans together at the same time.
Okay, great, thank you.
And Mr. Mayor and council members, I just kind of want to be clear on where we are legally on this. Based on the declaration of emergency that was adopted Friday night, The city manager, as the basically director of emergency services at this time, has the legal authority to take action. So we're not going to be looking for motion and second on items that come up during this report. What we're looking for is a lot of input from you so that the city manager can weigh that input as he's making decisions. Obviously, between now and your next regular meeting, between now and potentially any special meetings that come for more input, or as a matter of fact, for potential votes on agendized items, the city manager may have to take action that goes against what you have told him tonight, because circumstances, as we all know, are changing very rapidly. But based on all the information you received tonight, please give as much input, as much of your emotions, of your thoughts, of your feelings as you have towards the various matters that are presented, so that those can be weighed as the city manager moves forward. It's an awkward and unusual situation, but I will tell you it's one being followed in all 88 cities. I shouldn't say that. In as many of the 88 cities in this county as have the city manager form of government and as have adopted the emergency declaration similar to the one you did. And then obviously in the 6 counties up north, it's an even stranger circumstance, but it's what we're all working with right now. If you have any questions legally as to what we're doing or not doing, please let me know. But just kind of for the record and for our agenda in the Brown Act, during this item 11A, we're not going to be looking for any motions on what to do. We're going to be looking for input. Sir.
I have a question. Would you distinguish between input and direction? Because that's what we usually do.
That is what you usually do.
And I'm assuming we wouldn't be giving this information unless staff was looking for some type of direction from our body.
Purely legally speaking, we are at a point which is an update and a report. So legally speaking, what I would love to see tonight is input. If you feel that we need to have a special meeting so that you actually take an action and tell our city manager what he needs to do, we can do that. This is agendized tonight as a report on what his plans are.
Okay.
And that's a very fine distinction, sir, I know, but
And personally, I take that to mean that whatever you call it, input or direction, whatever we say tonight will be heard by the city manager. And of course, what he does will depend on whether we choose to come back and turn that into a agendized matter and make it a little more clear as to perhaps the direction we would like to go.
yes, sir.
Okay.
And as I said, the city manager could go right along with what the 5 of you say tonight and do that for some number of days. And if circumstances change, he may have to take a different action. And so by only offering input into the emergency decisions that he's making, he won't have to come back and say to you at that point, you gave me direction, I need to now ask you to go a different, I need to ask you to revise that direction. So yes, do I think he will listen to what you say? Absolutely, sir, I do. But as long as we keep it phrased the right way, then he has the leeway that he needs to act in the emergency situation.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
does anybody have any further input?
Okay, so is now the time to talk about parking?
We can, I believe, because that's one of the things that's on here.
If
Or not.
in the vein of input, I would prefer that we continue this discussion here, so I can get some sense of,
Not talk.
and then we can, and then I can continue the discussion
Okay,
and
got
update on parking enforcement.
Okay, so that's to come later. All right, so is there anything more on items that Director Reimers just covered?
The only question I have is, will you be updating us as to how this is going? Because obviously, we've never done it before, and I realize that there's going to be some glitches and things. So will you be giving us a report on a regular basis?
Sure, we can do that.
And can we maybe use this as a template?
Sure.
So that we know, and maybe we can ask later if something's happening or not, or something working or not?
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, I
Yes.
just want to ask a question. I trust that this information, once we discuss tonight, will be posted somewhere where the public can access, so that
Thank you,
folks will
thanks.
know what to do. And
Yeah.
maybe phone numbers were, I mean, maybe not just a general number, maybe you got special numbers that folks can call in directly.
We already have planned, depending on some of the input I received tonight, already have a planned press release ready to go with that as well.
Excellent.
Okay. Anyone else? I'm still a little fuzzy as to exactly what you're asking us to do here, because I heard Scott mention, and in going through these items, it seems to me that by doing this, the plan is to close City Hall to the public.
That's correct.
Okay, and so, but of course, that's nowhere stated here. It's just, I'm assuming that that would be the next step that you would
Well, I would call,
perhaps take, that you could perhaps take under the emergency measure that we granted, hearing what we've heard tonight.
I think I would call it that we are virtually open.
Okay. And perhaps, I guess, what.
We
maybe-
are, but if you
maybe-
look-
Maybe the input that you're seeking is, do we disagree with any of these things? Or do we think, well, this
That-
isn't
it-
gonna work,
it-
should you do this? or something
Disagree,
like that?
and but in terms, and let me commend Mr. Reimers and his entire staff. This is truly a continuity of service that, yes, has some significant modifications, but from an economic standpoint, I think we are demonstrating that we are, to the best of our ability, still open for business. We are just working in order to meet some of the guidelines that have come down the pike. Will there be glitches? Will there be things that we need to work through? Absolutely. But this is truly a continuity of service. So if tomorrow morning, when we open up and somebody can't physically get in the door, we will be able to provide them with a level of service and get them what they need.
No, and I agree, and I think it's great because it provides not only us, but the public with a template of how we're going to still accomplish much of what we already do at City Hall without that face-to-face contact.
Well
So-
put. Exactly.
Okay, all right. Yes,
So we're talking about the plan,
Yes.
Yes,
giving input
yeah.
about the plan. Under the life safety concerns, it says it's provided.
which
and,
are you under?
Which section is
just-
Oh, community preservation,
okay.
yeah.
So under the life safety concern, it says it's provided and staff is off-site. Will work in tandem with the building official to consider severity of concern, and an inspection will be scheduled. I'm not really sure. I mean, that doesn't seem really clear to me. I'm thinking if you have a life safety concern, you better be calling 911 or the sheriff's, I mean, or the fire department, right? So I'm not really sure.
I think, is that but isn't, maybe I'm wrong, is a life safety concern concerning the, like, let's say a roof is gonna come down or something like that? Is that what we're not talking about
Right.
somebody who's actually sitting on the property
But
injured? That would be a
I'm thinking of
911
if
call.
you have a major flood in your house or something like that. I mean,
There's a few different permutations of what you might see. So if a car goes off the road and hits a building, typically the occupant or the neighbor doesn't call the code enforcement staff. We get a call from the sheriff's department or the fire department, and we send out an inspector to see if the building is still safe. We would still have that ability under this plan.
okay.
If someone is occupying a garage and that garage occupant poses a threat to the person who's living in there because they're using a charcoal grill to heat the garage, that's a life safety issue. That's something that we could go out and inspect. If someone is starting construction without a permit, there is a potential for a safety issue. We could respond to those in different ways. If someone's doing work without a permit, we can just give them a stop work notice. and they have to stop work.
I
We don't
think
actually-
my question, I didn't make it as clear as it could be, is that when you have a life safety concern and it says that an inspection will be scheduled, I'm thinking that a life safety issue should take priority, not necessarily say it will be scheduled, because 2 days later, it might not exist anymore if it blows up, say you have a charcoal grill. So I think that was more, my concern is, will there be a priority so that you might not have to schedule it, you're just gonna go out?
Absolutely, yeah. And in our existing policies, we respond to those calls immediately.
Okay.
And you will continue to do that?
Yes.
Councilmember, to use the hypothetical that the acting director gave, if a car runs into a building, they can go red tag it immediately and make it unfit, no one can inhabit it. They can then set an inspection for 2 or 3 days later to do a
Right.
deeper inspection and perhaps remove the red tag at that point. So I understand where the confusion lies, but I have every
Yeah.
faith in your staff to treat these
Right.
appropriately.
I think if we were gonna give it to the public, that it could say something like, address the immediacy of the issue or schedule. So someone's not questioning that too. You mean the house next door can burn down, but they're gonna have to schedule it. So if we just / add or something,
Very good.
okay.
Okay. Thank you. All right,
I have a question.
go
I
ahead.
have a question. Since we are going to post this, is there any way we can put on it that City Hall will be closed to the public? Because when you look at this, it doesn't really,
Well, I
you
would-
don't see
I-
that.
yeah. Well, that's why I asked. I would hope that would be a separate issue, and that would be all
Or it will
bold.
somewhere.
This would be like the follow-up.
Okay,
By the way,
I
we're
just-
closed, and this is
Thank
why
you.
you need to
Well,
do these.
perhaps it shouldn't use the word closed,
Well-
because
Or-
people
or-
might take it that, well, I
well,
cannot get
correct,
service.
something
but-
like that,
Yeah.
Virtu-
yeah, that-
virtually open.
Or, yeah, closed for physical
something.
entry of public or something
And then I
like
have
that.
one more question.
Go ahead.
Well, Mr. Reimers was, we will modify this. This was more, this has a level of
Okay, that's-
detail that's probably a little more so that we want to do this in the effort of working with you and being transparent with all of you as well, so that this is not the time to not be transparent with these things. So we want to be transparent with you, so you're understanding exactly, maybe probably a level of detail that we're really not used to doing,
Right,
but
right.
we'll modify it in a way that
Well,
makes some
and
sense.
at the end of the day, I think the public has to understand what they can or cannot do.
Absolutely.
Correct.
The contractors, all the people who are gonna be using this.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, you had a question?
And then the next question, which I'm kind of assuming you're gonna do this. I'm assuming we're gonna have signs posted
Yes,
at all of
absolutely.
the entrances?
Yep.
With contact information,
Yep.
phone numbers, emails and everything, and, okay. all right.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what I figured. Okay.
Thank you. All right, any further questions on this issue?
Just
Go ahead.
one more thing. I'm also thinking, because things are so fluid and changing also, that we somehow can just address the fact that this is what's available now, or this is the plan now, but that it can change.
As of a certain
Yeah,
date.
or it can change according to the need or whatever,
As
but,
of 8 a.m. tomorrow.
yeah.
I think most of these things, and I think in the very near future, most of what we do is basically gonna be pretty much indefinite until further notice.
Yeah, something like
And
that.
so that's really, I think, the message. I think that, and I know I'm talking with Brian, that's, I think he understands that, none of us, I wish we all could tell the future, but we don't. To come back and say, well, we're gonna do this for a week or 10 days, it's kind of unrealistic in today's world, since things change hourly, it seems like, but, we act on what we have available to us now, and these are the decisions we'll make, and until that changes, we can change it, and we'll certainly let the public know. That's all we can do. So, okay. Vince, you have anything more you want to add? Okay, so, do you want to go on to the next item?
If I can just give you a brief summary, you also have a one-pager on Public Works.
I thought we were gonna talk about parking.
Oh,
What?
Are we not
That's
gonna
after.
talk about
Yes.
parking now?
Well, we're not to that point. I think he wanted to say that for another
Oh.
part of the
Is it,
discussion.
is it okay
Sure.
if I go
Sure.
over one more
Yeah,
thing?
we'll go get to that. We're not going to leave that because I think all of us are interested in it.
Thank you. And so I will get some input, feedback, and for direction for me as we move forward.
Okay, so your next one is having to do with the summary of the CDD and Public Works.
Public Works, so for
One-page
Public
document.
Works, it's the single sheeter
Yeah,
that you
we
see.
got it.
Our biggest concern there is the sanitation component right now, and along with tree limbs, trees, and other issues. Essentially, at this point, because we are all, in the back of our little cards, disaster service workers, everybody can do everything. I am allowed under the ordinance to assign staff amongst any task that they are skilled to do. So essentially, at this point in time, our tree crew, our public works crew, and our parks maintenance crew are interchangeable. And they're doing a great job of working together. So in terms of what the public sees in terms of major potholes, tree limbs down, trash collection in our commercial corridors, that will all remain. The service requests will still come in. We will try to prioritize it. The only thing that we ask of members of the public is they're usually our staff knows many members of the public and interacts with them. We would just ask that we watch the social distancing on those things. Welcome to observe from a distance the work that we're doing. There's no secret in the work we're doing, but just honor those social distancing requirements that the public health officials asked of us. So we will keep going on that front. You shouldn't see any major significant delays. Lastly, and until I get to your thoughts about parking enforcement, we are a small contract city. We have 40 employees. Unlike larger agencies who have the depth and can go 3 or 4 deep, we cannot. But I can tell you, you can be very proud, and I need to thank every member of the staff over the last week for their dedication, their stick-to-itiveness, and at doing anything and everything that they can ask of that we can ask of them, and that will continue for the next several months. The other issues we're thinking about too is this is not just this event will just not stop whenever it stops. We are thinking 2, 4, 6, 9, 12 months ahead of what these impacts mean, both financially and from a personnel standpoint. We are in a people business. This is why this is so hard. It seems like this is why it's so hard on the economy. But for city services, we are a people business. That's without people, we do not provide service. So we are doing all that we can. Park staff, you've been getting updated on the parks programming, and there's an update with a few other things. We are providing childcare service just to city staff to ensure that we are providing the essential services to the community going forward. Park staff met today to see what additional types of programming, meeting all of the guidelines that we can do. We will come back to you on that. Another issue that we will come back to you on as well is leave. This will be challenging from a legal perspective.
Okay, so you've left the Public Works issues now?
Sorry, yes.
Okay, so we're now moving on.
Stream of consciousness.
Okay,
sir.
Thank you.
you're like jumbling everything together, so maybe we should slow down a little bit. So should we address any questions regarding the?
Thank you,
Thank
you, Mayor Chavez. Anything on the
matters on Public Works?
on the public works side?
And
is
I
there any
noticed that we
concern?
also have within our documents, document entitled City of Temple City Public Works Maintenance Division Weekly Schedule.
Yes, and that's the
So
one I was just
that would
referring
be,
to.
of course, part of what you've been talking about as well.
Yes, sir.
So maybe before we move on to the other things you just mentioned, is to determine if there's any input, I'm going to keep using that term for our legal attorney here, if there's any input as to these issues. And I know many of us, this is the first time we've seen it, so you might want to bear with us as we look through these things. But if anything that stands out, to anybody, or anybody has any questions about these, this would be the proper time to go ahead and
Yeah,
address those.
Mayor Chavez.
Yes, go
I do have
ahead.
a question. It may be kind of related to the prior section we're talking about as well. I know you mentioned that we're trying to provide the same level of service as we were before, or trying to reduce the impact to the public. So in terms of, I guess, just setting the public's expectations for issues such as plan check, do we anticipate that because of these changes in operations, that the public should anticipate a different timetable for responses? Do we not know at this time because it's too early? If not, is that something we can kind of maybe monitor as we go, so that we can kind of let the public know on a case-by-case basis that things might be different?
We can let them know if things do become a bit different. The only thing that presently poses an issue for us in terms of timing is for some cases that are very large, where the fee would be very high, they would need to send a check. So we would have to wait to receive the check until we commence work on the project.
But they would know that.
Yeah, they would know that up front. So, but typically our time to review a building plan check is 8 to 10 working days, which is significantly faster than some other jurisdictions.
Oh, definitely.
So I think the 3-day additional time won't be a big problem, but we will let them know.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you. Yeah, and I mean, I don't mean to intermingle like a bunch of issues, because we were just talking about all the state regulations for ADUs, et cetera, and there's like this different time frame that we're expected to respond, and now we got this stacked on top of it. So I'm just concerned that we're kind of facing so many things at once that we wouldn't be able to realistically comply with some of those state mandates. So I'm not expecting like a direct answer, but I just, that's my input, is if we could kind of keep an eye out for that, how that impacts us. I know that the state stuff is still, the housing related issues are still kind of in flux, as we've talked about in our last meeting. So there's a lot to kind of deal with at this moment. So.
The good news is right now the planning staff is fully staffed, and they can perform plan reviews and have been performing plan reviews online for the last year and a half. So I don't expect this change to require any different changes. Basically, they can perform their work in their office, or they can perform it anywhere else. So I don't think the timing is going to affect us. Really, the question is if all the planners get sick at the same time, then we're going to have a problem.
Okay.
So that at that point, then we would have an issue.
Okay, thank you.
And I think you bring up a valid point in that, as you mentioned, the state has mandated a lot of different time regulations and things that we as a city now have to do in I guess a more timely manner. I would hope, and maybe this is something that we can talk about in the future, that maybe contacting our local representatives to see what, if anything, the state can do to lessen that burden, I guess you could say. Similar things to what the state has done with, filing income tax returns and things like that. So we may see more of that as we go. I don't know, but I would hope so. And I'm sure our city attorney can keep us up to date on those as well. So, good point.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, any more questions or any more input on the Public Works portion of this discussion? I just have one. So this weekly schedule you give it as, is that different than what we're already doing now?
No.
It's just basically to advise us that this is what this is what we have been doing, and we'll continue for at least the immediate future to keep doing it that way.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. All right. Okay. Next,
Lastly,
where
with
do you want to go?
lastly, with parks, we've been giving you, that's the first step that we took. This is the similar update that you've been seeing prior related to that. Again, senior lunch program modified today, success with great work by staff and glitches and all. People did get meals today, and we'll continue to improve that. We continue to provide the childcare, and we will look into see what else we can do going forward as well, and we will bring that at a future council meeting.
Also, just maybe you might want to mention the fact regarding the senior meals that we are also, as a staff, determining who cannot come and pick it up and actually delivering those meals to those individuals as well.
Yes, we are working through that process right now. That wasn't done today, but we are working through that process.
So that could be available in the
And
future.
we'll see what is available from a capacity standpoint.
Okay, all right.
I have
Councilmember
I just have a
Fish.
question, sorry, about the outside organizations. I know our Little Leagues and Soccers, I know they kind of postponed things themselves,
They did.
and they set their own dates.
Yes.
Are we going to be telling them when they can return? Are we at some point?
That I would be more comfortable updating the council about, because that would require us to make a hard date
Okay,
citywide. I would rather probably have that as an emergency meeting with the council to understand what we're doing, and I think as
okay. And
events
I know it's early
unfold-
now, and lots can change in
Yeah.
the next week or
But
two.
these are their.
I know these are their
these are their dates.
Right,
But I think as events unfold, I think we would probably call some emergency meetings to give you some clear idea of what all that means.
okay.
And-
Because they have reached out to me to see if we had any kind of information as far as if we knew when the parks were, or if they were gonna close. So, thank you.
And these dates, well, I can only speak for Little League, of course, as a district staff member for Little League. Little League Baseball International has sent down a lot of
Correct.
information to them, and these are the dates that they're using so far, although in the information I've received from Little League, that could change as well.
Right.
So, everything's kind of still up
I
in the
know
air.
everything's up in the air.
So, yeah, but that's the kind of the newest we have. One of the things, although it's not controlled by us, although it's in our city, Temple City National Little League, of course, we have two little leagues. They play their games at Longden. And of course, that's controlled by the school district.
And they've closed
But
down
I think they've also closed
all
and-
outside
And
organizations.
consistent with Little League Baseball as well, so, okay. Okay. Any questions on the Parks and Recreation information that we have? Or okay?
I do have one
Go ahead.
one question, Mayor Chavez.
Uh-huh.
Just sort of ancillary related to this. At the bottom, I noticed that all Parks and Recreation Commission meetings are canceled until further notice. Is that also the same for our other commissions? Are those meetings canceled, or is that a separate
Does it
matter?
depend on?
I think
on
that
the
was one of the
commission.
issues we may be discussing tonight, but not,
Is that separate from this?
that might be separate from this, I don't know. Mr.
I'll,
City
I'll,
Attorney?
I'll let the city attorney and Mr.
Yeah.
Reimers speak to
Yeah,
the
just
planning
because
commission.
I see
No,
it down
that's
here.
It's a valid
I'm
point,
so
and I
sorry.
don't mind discussing it, it's just I want to make sure we're.
Yeah,
doing it
if
correctly.
it's a question
But
that's
it's a-
addressed
it's a
later on,
valid
then.
question. I
then
agree.
I'm glad
I'll-
that brought you up, because I meant to
yeah,
ask that.
I couldn't help but see that.
Yeah. No, it's
Parks
good.
and Recreation.
I can give you a short answer for the planning commission. We don't have any business for the second meeting in March or the first meeting in April. So we were planning to cancel those meetings, and then we'll reassess what to do about the second meeting in April.
Okay.
Kind of takes over itself then.
And then Mr. Arizumi will talk about some of the administrative action he took related to parking citations to provide people with relief.
So with the Transportation Public Safety Commission, they do conduct the parking citation hearings. We are governed by the vehicle code on when those hearings need to occur. So at this point, we have canceled the meetings in March and April, and we will assess our meetings in May. If it does have to be conducted, we can conduct a meeting by teleconference, and all requests for hearings will be in written declaration form.
Okay, I think that takes care of those three.
Yep.
Perfect.
Thank
And
you.
also on the youth committee side, I've discussed the matter with Peggy, and we are canceling this month's meeting, and the rest to be followed, so. Okay. All right.
Just jumping off of what Mr. Reamer said, and obviously Councilmember Mann brought up earlier, the Permit Streamlining Act could require the Planning Commission to meet, if only to render a decision within a statutory timeframe. If that's required, then what Mr. Arizumi just said would be, I would assume the same procedure that Mr. Reimers would follow.
And I think the concern, actually, obviously, we're all here tonight, and certain mitigation, procedures we can take into effect, and still conduct a meeting for that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else on the Parks and Recreation side? Brian, do you have anything else you want to add to it?
Thank you, Mayor Chavez. Lastly, I'm sorry this has been an exhaustive discussion, but we want to make sure that you, as the council, are fully aware of what's going on, as you have been and as I've been updating you, but also too in this open forum of transparency with the community and our staff.
Well,
Lastly,
you have to remember too, that not only are you filling us in, but at the same time, you're also filling in those who are present and those who are watching online. And that's the important part. And of course, once we're done here, then of course the next step would be to further, communicate with the public, because after all, they're the ones that need this information.
probably
So-
I got the wrong angle with the camera. It sees my
Yeah, I know,
bald
but
spot, but whatever. What are we going to
I
do?
keep getting a glare. I didn't want to say
Um,
anything to you, but
Just lastly, two things from a human resources and a finance standpoint. As you know, this city is well capitalized. The treasurer's made some adjustments to draw down on what's called LAIF, which is the state savings account, and we also have one with the county. Just to give you some perspective, during the 2008 financial crisis, the state did not honor every single redemption or withdrawal from the state's funds or their state savings account called LAIF. They're not anticipating any problems with that now either. So from a cash flow position standpoint, to make payroll, to pay our vendors, to pay our county partners, we are in a great financial position. Also, too, along with the great work Mr. Reimers and staff have done in pushing much online, we have done the same with our financial system and our HR system. So if we have sicknesses in City Hall or we have further mandates from the county health official, we can adjust schedules, do things to keep payroll, finance, continuing and moving forward as well. So with that, that is, unless you have any questions on the HR or finance front.
any other questions?
We put about, just to let you know, you get the treasurer's report. We put about $2 million in cash into our checking account. And then obviously too, if you skip council meetings over the next month or two, our city treasurer, our CFO and I will be informing you of all the checks we are cutting beforehand, and it'll be ratified later, but those won't be sent until you know about it. So that's it, unless you have any other questions of me. And so we can move on to parking enforcement.
Okay, are we going to move on to that as part of item 11?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
These are extraordinary times. A lot of people are doing different things. I'd like to get your thoughts on parking enforcement citywide with permits. I can tell you with our parking enforcement staff, we can and have actually today been doing other duties. Like Temple City High School actually had a lunch program for reduced lunches. We provided traffic control for that today.
Actually, I received a couple of emails thanking us for that, by the way. So
That's great.
good job.
And we can do some other things as well as and assisting the sheriff's department with traffic, with our parking enforcement staff. So if I could get some thoughts from the council as to what we want to do there.
Fish?
I'd just like to say that I think we should do everything we can to help our residents. I think this is a time that is unsure for a lot of people. We are all out of our normal schedules. People are helping neighbors, they're helping their parents, relatives. I would be 100% willing to relieve any parking as far as overnight or what do you call it with the
Trash.
Street
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 cleaning.
sweeping, thank you. Again, no one really knows. So much has happened just today. I can tell you, I've listened to 3 press conferences from 3 different divisions, and it's mind-boggling about how fast this is going. I don't even know what's gonna happen tomorrow, much less next week. So that's
Okay.
just my little.
Thank you. Anyone else like to be heard? Vince?
Oh, yeah, I think there's definitely a practical side of the parking, because a lot of folks are now working from home, and their kids may be home, like in my case, my son's home working. So I have an extra car at home that we need to find parking space for,
Right, we have students home,
students and so
college
forth,
people,
yeah.
we have.
And then we have visitors perhaps too as well, and they may or may not be familiar with our street sweeping days, and time is hard, and then some folks may not even have a job, for example, if they're working in restaurants and
That's
stuff.
exactly true.
So, there's enough anxiety to go around, we don't need to add to that by giving them parking tickets. So, I'm for, at least my opinion is that we should relax that
Okay,
for our
thank you.
residents.
Councilmember Mann?
Oh, yes, thank you, Mary Chavez. I agree. I think it's a time for compassion. I think the last thing people want to be anxious about is a parking ticket. So I would be in favor of basically not enforcing street sweeping and overnight parking. Although I do want to maybe ask a clarifying question is, will this or will this not extend to, I guess, public safety-related citations like red curb and hydrants?
Red curb and hydrants are a life safety issue.
So that would-
so that
we would not lift
I
that,
would,
right?
I would interpret, not interpret, I don't think we don't really have the ability not to enforce those.
Okay.
So, but, where we
that's-
have some discretion where the council has prior decisions made a legislative action to enforce those measures, I'll take the input we have right now as we're going forward.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. So I think that stays in place.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
So-
we wouldn't obviously be affecting the vehicle code or anything like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Those are issues.
Correct, yes, we we can't not enforce red curbs. You can't not enforce if someone parks across a driveway and the resident needs to get out. Those are, as the mayor says, those are a step above our ability to enforce. If it informs the council and the city manager at all, I can tell you that I know the city of Los Angeles today has decided to waive its own enforcement of its city-imposed parking restrictions, in particular in very heavily populated areas where their street sweeping causes one side of the street to be vacant each morning. So one side on a Wednesday, the next side on a Thursday. They've waived that knowing that people are going to be home. So I think the action that is being proposed by the city manager and your comments are in line with what you're going to see all over this county.
Thank you. Councilmember Sternquist?
Just a couple of questions. Regarding parking, are we talking specifically about residential, or is this in the commercial area throughout the city?
As long as we are enforcing the vehicle code components of it, it would be citywide.
I do have a little bit of a concern about a citywide, and I guess one of the reasons is just with I haven't heard, but for example, next to the 99-cent store, are those schools such as Taekwondo, Lee's Dance Studios, are those required to close?
Under the
businesses?
most recent order
Yeah,
by,
the businesses.
it,
I mean, they're dance schools, it's
I
a,
believe the dance studios are.
Might be in the gray area.
Yeah, I'm not, we'd have to check, Councilmember Sternquist, we'd have to look into that because we were reading it last night as well, trying to understand what was, without providing a heavy hand. Obviously, we're not the enforcing agent in that case as well, but yeah, we'll have to look into that.
well, the reason I share that is because, you know, there is such a concern for people going in to get food right now,
Yeah.
99-cent store. If the school adjacent to 99-cent store, the Taekwondo school, is open and people will park there for 2 or 3 kids and stay 3 or 4 hours. So that would prohibit some people from being able to have parking easily accessible.
But correct me if I'm wrong, we're not talking about relaxing.
Citywide, he said.
Well, we're not talking about relaxing the time restrictions as far as in the commercial district, 1-2 hour. Is that what you're talking about, those type of restrictions?
I mean, if we're relaxing in that, to me, that says we're not enforcing.
Well, the only ones that I've heard that we're relaxing, again, correct me if I'm wrong, is the overnight parking restrictions and the street sweeping.
Yeah.
Do they
Those are
s-
the only
Those are
two
the
that
only
I've
two.
heard.
Not
that
the
have been
2
mentioned.
hour, not the,
None
not
of
any
the,
of
none of the
that.
vehicle code sections. I haven't heard any, requests to cancel the business section portions as far as the 1-2 hours. Those are all different issues. I think the issue, and
But they do
my
street
concern is that.
sweeping there.
Well, my concern, they do street sweeping, and are you talking in the parking lots?
No, they don't. They do street sweeping along the.
Correct. We do have commercial street sweeping. Those restrictions will be relaxed, but those are separate from the 2-hour parking between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. That is
Those- and
not
those we're not talking
being,
about relaxing.
there was no
Well, that's
discussion
what
to
I wanted
relax
to make sure, because
those.
99-cent store opens at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the street sweeping restrictions in both residential and commercial areas and overnight restrictions on the street. We will still prohibit overnight parking in city parking lots. It's just the permits will not be required to park on the street.
So no one's street sweeping there at 7 o'clock. It's before 7 o'clock.
Street sweeping in the commercial areas occurs between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to make sure, but I was concerned because I was reading all the governor's orders and trying to get answers, and I could not find anything that clarified well enough that dance studios and taekwondo are open. I mean, there's 75 people in that one,
I would
at one
imagine,
time.
and Greg, correct us if I'm wrong, but I don't think those types of businesses are exempt from the, the amount of people that can actually congregate or meet. I think they're still bound by those.
That's correct, sir. They would be subject, ma'am, not to the governor's orders, but to the Los Angeles Public Health Officer, LA County Public Health Officer's orders regarding number of people congregating at a site at one time. So as those orders continue to come out, and obviously we've seen up north how strong they're going, but as those orders continue to come out and gatherings of more than 25 people or more than 50 people are being prohibited, then those would be able to be enforced on really any entity, whether it's public or private.
But
So-
you raise a valid point, and that, I think the issue here is clarification.
Yes.
We need to make sure that or whatever we tell our residents is clear what they can or cannot do. It really comes down to
Right.
that. And like I said, it can be confusing as to that, and we just need to make it clear as to what it would be.
Because I know you did take flyers or go into businesses, you said, and that will continue to inform them. But I would do that also, not just with the restaurants, but with the schools. And we have, I think, 4 dance studios in our city.
We'll follow up on that for sure.
Yeah, I think, I hate to say it, but everything's kind of changing, you know?
Fluctuating, yeah.
Who knows, tomorrow we may have a direct edict about those, but, I think
Yeah,
we
it's-
can
it's-
just follow what we can, so, okay.
That's all.
Anything else?
That's all.
Good, all right, good points. I agree with my colleagues. I think this makes sense for 2 reasons. As mentioned before, we have college kids coming home, being sent home that we didn't plan on, and then we're telling people to stay home and not go to work. Obviously, there are gonna be more cars around. People are gonna wanna, park and whatever has to be done. Also, I think, we know that we have limited resources in our city, and now it seems to be one of the things that we have to look at is how to use those limited resources in the best way. And I think perhaps not committing our code enforcement to giving tickets is probably a smart thing to do at this point. So, okay. Anything else? Anybody else have any comments on that?
I have
Yes.
some free time if the city staff needs a teacher to go help the kids out.
All right, well, you might get some calls on that. All right, thank you. Does that conclude your report?
Longest city manager's report ever.
Ever? Don't let that happen again.
I swear.
All right, thank you. All right, it was a good report, though, and, you know, I mean, sometimes we sit up here, we talk, but this is a time when we need to talk about these things, and we need to be clear, and we need to focus on what we have to do, and whatever time that takes, we'll get it done. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so now we will now move on to item number 12, update from our city attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is as much for the public as it is for the 5 members of the City Council. During this health crisis, I want to make everyone aware of 2 sections of the government code that may come into play. That is Section 54956, which allows special meetings, and Section 54956.5, which allows emergency meetings. City Council normally holds special meetings, usually an hour before your regular meetings, but you hold other special meetings from time to time, like your monthly meeting with the sheriff. In this case, a special meeting would be held on 24 hours' notice if an item that needed the council to give direction or to adopt an action was required during this health emergency. You may also be asked to come in for an emergency meeting under Government Code Section 54956.5. That actually allows a meeting on only 1 hour's notice. It's very rare. You did have such a meeting last Friday when you adopted the state of emergency. A true emergency situation has to exist, which is why it is so rare. I don't expect to see one of those during the next 60 days. You already have your state of emergency resolution adopted, but then again, I didn't expect to see one on Friday either. So both of those may be called by either the mayor or a majority of the city council. We would see an emergency meeting called by a majority of the city council, generally in a situation in which the mayor was incapacitated. Otherwise, the mayor would do it on his own, and all of you would be getting notice from staff. Again, this is as much for the public as it is for the 5 of you, so that the public might understand that council meetings could pop up out of nowhere, and that's something that we'll all have to deal with as we work through this situation. So thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you for your action last Friday, and I look forward to continuing to serve.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, we will now move on to item number 13, council reports regarding ad hoc or standing committee meetings. First of all, I'll ask if anybody has anything to report from any of those meetings. I don't think we've had any. Okay, but before we leave this item, we do have our commissioner recruitment period coming up, and I would like at this time to establish an ad hoc committee meeting to meet, and do what we normally do when we have commissioner recruitment time. So at this time, I would entertain any volunteers for that position.
I nominate our mayor.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, so we know, okay,
I'll volunteer.
so Councilmember Fish is volunteering. Anybody else? If hearing none, then I guess I've been nominated. Okay, so the ad hoc committee will be established between me and Councilmember Fish. Okay, City Clerk, is that sufficient? Thank you. All right. Okay, we will now move on to item 14, council items separate from the city manager's regular agenda. We'll start with Councilmember Fish.
Okay. Well, I have just a couple of things. First, I would like to, of course, thank staff and thank our city manager. This is something that there are no books that you can read to do. There's no plan. I know we have an emergency plan, but who would think that we would be in this position right now? So I would like to thank all of you for your hard work. I know that you're doing all of this emergency preparation on top of your regular job, so I wanted to thank you for that. I also wanted to thank the large, and I guess it's Brian, with social media. I've noticed there's been a,
Brian H.
Brian H.
He's in the back.
Brian H., thank you. I had said before that I think us keeping in contact with the residents, the public, and letting them know what's happening is very, very important, even if it's just the smallest detail. We're getting a lot of information from the county, from the state, from the feds, but a lot of people want to know what's happening here at home. That's what's more important to them, especially since we are telling them not to go anywhere. I'm assuming they really don't care what's going on. They want to know what's going on here at home. So I appreciate that. Please keep up the good work. I did want to say to especially the people out there that are listening and online, please, rumors are rampant right now. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of information. It's daily. It's, some of it is just crazy and ridiculous. If you hear any rumors and you want to make sure that they are correct, please contact the city hall, our city manager, our city clerk, or any one of us and clarify it. Don't wait until you're upset about it, until you don't agree with it. We're here to give you the correct and most updated information. So again, fear is something that we have to control, and we can only control it through information. So please know that we're always available. We're going to get back to you. And again, like I say, don't listen. You know, if it seems too crazy or out of just out of control, please check with us. It probably is. But there are some crazy people out there that are saying some crazy things. So, and that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Mann.
Thank you, Mayor Chavez. Yeah, I want to also express my appreciation and gratitude for city staff for being so flexible and adaptable. I know it's unprecedented, so a lot of this planning is just coming together as we go. And like Councilmember Fish said, it's changing day by day. So having you guys show and demonstrate that adaptability is very impressive. And I'm very glad we have an excellent team to guide us through this time. I did have two things I wanted, they're kind of like questions. I wasn't sure if it fit well with the city manager's report, so I figured I'll defer it to this time instead of bogging your report down. I know you've been, you and staff have been keeping us updated with a lot of updates from various agencies. There was one piece of information that you shared with us within the last week. As part of our emergency declaration that we did at the last meeting, I know part of it, we had submitted that declaration to the California Office of Emergency Services, Cal-OES. And I remember reading in that email that it said, if we were to get any sort of reimbursements or funds from them, it would require some sort of justification of the current crisis's impact on Temple City's budget. So I'm not expecting like a answer right now, but I just want to kind of know if that's something that would impact us, or there is no tangible nexus between what they can offer as a reimbursement to, like, I guess, another way to ask is there anything that we're using or expending right now that would fall into that category, or is that something just yet to be determined?
Councilmember Mann, the short answer is yes, and I'm going to ask Mr. Arizumi to give a short answer as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so current times, we don't know what the federal government or the state are gonna allow for reimbursable expenses. However, as part of a public assistance process, the California Emergency Services, Cal-OES, will look at a city's budget to see what funds are available that are discretionary that could be used first before requesting reimbursement. So they'll look at our budget. If we say that we have funds dedicated to capital improvement projects or other stuff that are set aside that are not discretionary, they will not count that against us. Or if we're saying that we are adopting a budget that is already in a deficit, and they verify that, that will not count it against us. And so they're gonna look to make sure that we're using whatever they determine to be discretionary funds first before they will approve any type of reimbursement.
Okay.
Brian, I would imagine that documentation is a huge part of this. Is there someone designated in each department to do that, or will you be doing that?
No, Mr. Arizumi is doing all of the forms. I think I believe earlier today or yesterday I sent you one of the forms that was certified by Cal OES as well. So at this point, we are essentially in a low activation EOC mode, which is pretty much just pushing the paperwork along at this point, in which Mr. Arizumi is complying with and doing what is required. There are some other paperwork that we're doing on the staffing level as well to meet that. So that's kind of where we're at the moment.
Okay, Councilmember Mann, I know you have a couple more items before we move on from this. This is eerily familiar from our windstorms. If some of you that were on council at the time may recall, we went through the same thing with Cal OES and detailing all our damages and coming up with all kinds of reasons why not to give us money. And when I looked at this email earlier today, it didn't surprise me at all. And the way I read it was that you better justify it or you're not getting anything. And so obviously lessons learned from last time, that obviously we need to keep those records, as you mentioned. But at the same time, you know, we seem to always fall through the cracks as far as, you know, we're not for lack of a better word, but being almost punished for the fact that we are economically sound. And it kind of reminds me of when you apply for Medi-Cal benefits. You don't get them unless you can show you can't afford to pay. And that's really what this boils down to. But, you know, I mean, it's worth a try, and I think it doesn't hurt to ask. And so, but at the same time, like I said, I remember this well from the windstorms and what we had to go through. But, you know, it all boils down to keeping track of everything, and I know staff is aware of that, and we'll keep working to that end. And if it's available, we'll try. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Great. No, thank you. That's, I think both Councilmember Sternquist and the mayor basically said the next points I was going to make. So thank you for bringing that up. I think we're all on the same page. So just one last thing. One thing I've noticed is in some of our neighboring cities in the San Gabriel Valley area, like for example, I believe the county had mentioned that there are some supermarkets and grocery stores that are allowing the beginning morning period for seniors to shop unobstructed. Like I think in Altadena there was a grocery outlet, and I can't think of the couple of
Trader
other
Joe's in
ones.
Monrovia.
Trader Joe's, yeah. So there were a couple that I noticed, and you know, we keep talking about how are we looking out for the most vulnerable members of our city, and you know, we have Ralph's, we have Super A. I don't know what role the city would play in having that conversation, or how does, I don't really exactly understand how that mechanism works. Is it just one of us going into Ralph's and saying we want to speak to the store manager, or can the city maybe take a lead?
What Ralph's was also doing was, they did designate a time for seniors in the morning.
Oh, they did, okay.
The other thing that they were doing is they were letting seniors go to the head of the line. If the line
I
was
see.
extremely long during the day, I think some people were getting upset about it, but I know that I heard that they were doing both of those things.
So what time did they open?
Go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What time did they open? You said they already started allowing senior go in the morning?
Yes,
You
I
just
don't-
have
I don't wanna
check,
say a
think, because,
time,
you know,
7,
I
8,
found that a lot of the
something.
supermarkets now are changing their hours.
yeah.
They're opening later, but at the same time allowing in certain, you know, areas of, certain people of the public in it a little earlier. You know, to kind of address the question, I've been following it kind of on the news, and there have been several cities and stuff. It seems to me that most of that is coming from the stores themselves, and doing it on their own rather than being pushed by the city council members or
I see.
whatever. You know, I don't know that we have much authority over that. I mean, Greg could probably address that better than I can, but, Greg, you want to respond to that?
Yes, sir. As an Altadena resident, I can tell you, it's unincorporated county land. Neither Super King nor Stater Brothers took that action, but Grocery Outlet did. And they did exactly what you said, sir. They pushed their opening back from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And in that first hour, seniors only were allowed in. And they posted notices that said, you must be a senior, you must prove senior status. And someone, like myself, could not go shop for my parents. It's seniors only. I think it's a wonderful thing. I don't think that there's any problem with the city or any council member reaching out to your markets to see if they have any similar plan, but it's not something that's being forced, whether it's by, and it's not even consistent within organizations. I know that some Trader Joe's are doing it. The La Cañada Trader Joe's, for example, had a line of seniors who mistakenly thought that they were going to be allowed in there an hour early because Monrovia Trader Joe's was doing it. So the best bet for any member of the public is to call ahead to the store, ask if the store has any special hours for seniors, and then, as I say, perhaps reaching out by the city or by council members might encourage some of your stores to do the same.
Yeah, so thank you for clarifying that. And I didn't want to make it seem like we're trying to mandate a store to change their hours. I think it goes a long way for the city as an entity. And I don't know how my fellow council members feel about this, but perhaps some concerted effort to maybe reach out to them as one body. Of course, the ultimate decision is probably going to, like Mayor Chavez said, is going to be up to the individual stores, but I feel like small bits of information, if we can confirm that they're factual and they're, and these are the things that we can kind of share with our residents. Is like every little bit of assistance can go a long way for a lot of folks who are kind of in an era of uncertainty. So my suggestion or input, as we keep using, is that I would suggest that the city reach out to the store managers for Ralph's and Super A, and if you think that there's anything we can do individually or even collectively as a body to write a letter, or I don't know what other way we could do it, if that helps, I personally would be more than happy to be that, but I don't want to make it seem like a solo effort. I think it's much more effective if we kind of maybe are of one mind.
Hey, that's,
So. Anyway, that's all I have to say on that. So I just want to end by saying I appreciate everyone from staff putting their collective efforts in, and also our everyone from Temple Station, et cetera, that ramping up patrols. Like I said, I think every little bit helps and goes a long way. So I appreciate everyone's efforts. I also want to just note that there are a lot of residents in Temple City that have personally offered to help their neighbors and residents. So I just want to thank everyone for showing compassion to your fellow neighbors during this time of need, especially those who may not be mobile, may have health conditions that will prevent them from going out. So I want to thank our residents for uniting together. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, and I'm glad you brought up the point regarding the supermarkets, because that was one of the things I had on my list. I agree with you. I think perhaps we can maybe get something together, and it would be a good gesture if it came from the city council as a whole. More of a kind of a reach out, as you say. We know that this is happening all over, and we would like you to consider something like this. I think that would be not a bad thing. Doesn't hurt to ask. Not at all. Okay. Thank you very much. All right, Council Member Sternquist.
yes, kudos to staff for all your work, to our city manager, city attorney. I've had a lot of time to be sequestered in my house because I'm at that age. First it was 65, which I'm not yet, and then today they moved that number back to 60. You
What?
should.
They did? I didn't
Yes,
hear
they
that.
did. So that 60, if you're 60 or over, you should stay in your home. So I was, I'm really trying to be really good about doing that and staying out of places that I really don't have to go. But, so I've watched CNN and Fox and every TV channel that had the news, and because watched the president today, and over the same theme I heard was, you know, the president said it, we're relying on individual states and local government. And I kept hearing that over and over, local government. So as I was watching it, I was thinking with pride how much I appreciate my colleagues and everyone that we work with here in Temple City, because I know the integrity that my colleagues have, how much they care for the community, how much I personally care for this community, and I know our staff certainly does also. And I think that's why the information is so important for all of us, is because local government is where, you know, the wheels meet the rubber meets the road. It's basically where people are going to go. You're not going to call the president if you have a problem. You're not going to call your senator, maybe, but I don't think she's going to give even any of us a call right now because they're so busy. But they will call or email one of us. And I thought about what a responsibility that is for all of us, even in our small city. So I take this opportunity to tell all the people that are watching that any one of us here would be willing to do whatever we can to alleviate any of your fears, help you in any way that we can, and that goes for our staff too. So please, staff, residents, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us, our sheriff's department also. But on a lighthearted note, just to see how creative people are, there was a posting from one of my colleagues in Pico Rivera. I believe he's the mayor, Gustavo Camacho, and he posted on his website the name of a restaurant. It's a Mexican restaurant. I can't think of it right now. But the posting from the restaurant owner said that if anybody came to take out food tonight or going forward, as long as the restaurant is closed, he would give, with any entree, a free quart of rice and beans and 2 rolls of toilet paper. And
That was worth more than the food.
and you know, I just had to laugh because it was really a serious post. I mean, he was just trying to encourage people to come out, and it made me think about, yes, you know, we go to our restaurants, we want to encourage them, do some nice things for seniors, but we also have to keep in mind that it's a two-way street for our residents and our business owners also. So anything we can do to encourage people to go to our local restaurants, your favorites, even if it's just once a week and maybe you hadn't gone for a while, go get a gift certificate from them, use it sometime down the road, give it for a birthday gift, take out food, whatever you can to support them, because they are really hurting and they are part of our city also. So I just wanted to encourage people. Listen, if someone's gonna give me 2 rolls of toilet paper, I'd go take out too. So I just thought it was kind of it just made me smile, because I thought people are doing what they can. They're helping in any way, and I think everybody's trying to be responsive. So that's it, pretty much.
Well, it's always nice to be able to smile.
Yes.
We can't forget about that. Thank you. Those are good thoughts. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I concur with my fellow council members, and want to thank Mr. City Manager, City Attorney, and staff, and everybody else pulling together. Also, as government worker myself, I actually know that a lot of the government folks are really stepping up to the plate and really trying our very best to deal with this. So I want to thank you, and I also want to take this opportunity to thank our mayor. I mean, we kind of joked last time you're the mayor of crises, and I know you spent a lot of time, extra time in dealing with and leading us through this crisis. So I want to thank you for that. And
You're welcome. Thank you.
just want to say that I think we can get through this together, and we will, and I'm confident of that. And I agree with the mayor said that we'll probably come out stronger, because some of the things that we are really looking at providing services in a different way, perhaps online, perhaps we're doing it alternatively, and I think maybe using technology, and I think we will end up, when this crisis is over, I think we're going to be a stronger service provider to our residents. So.
Okay, thank you. Well, certainly I echo everything my colleagues have said so far. Those in the public may not realize, but because of the relaxation of some of the parts of the Brown Act, we were all given the choice to, rather than appear here tonight, to to appear remotely and do it from our homes or whatever. I didn't doubt for a second that everybody would be here tonight. That's the kind of council we have. I know everybody wanted to have their input on some very important issues that we discussed tonight, and I couldn't be more prouder of everyone that's up here and the job that we continue to do and will do into the future. So, thanks a lot for that, and I know that, as was stated earlier, we do care about this city. We wouldn't be up here if we didn't. So I just want everybody to know, and I think everybody does realize that. We have ramped up our social media presence. I know that's been an issue for many of us, and I want to thank Brian H. and Tinny and any others who have worked on that. They've done a great job, and I know we'll continue to do that. It's going to be an ongoing thing, and that's obviously today is the way a lot of people find out information, and so continue to look into that. One of the things I would like staff maybe, and I know you're a little overburdened right now, Brian, but you mentioned earlier in some of the press announcements that the state and the feds are going to maybe look at releasing some funds for local businesses. I'm hoping that maybe we I know, that's kind of beyond the scope of what we do, but maybe perhaps we can help our local businesses by putting them in contact with these things, get as much information as we can about those programs and passing that on as information to our local businesses so that they can take advantage of whatever economic help is out there for them. So I think that's maybe something that we could do as far as our part in helping them with those tough times that are certainly going to come.
Mayor?
Yes.
I recall that Judy too, every time she's come out, that's her big issue is helping small businesses. So if we could reach out to her office.
Yeah.
We did a social media post today on that as
And
well.
I know she has a
I was gonna say, she did a
Facebook.
post
Oh, did she?
She has a Facebook on Thursday, I think, a live
right.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
she'll talk about that.
Live stream.
But just as a local government, like, as mentioned earlier, this is where it happens. I mean, most of our residents are going to look to us for information, for help, things that we may not be able to personally provide, but certainly we can give them the information to take advantage of. And I think if we can fulfill that, we're doing a lot of good for them. So, and then lastly, obviously we all been referring to the first time it was mayor and the windstorms and all that stuff. And my takeaway from that, the lasting impression I had from that was how neighbors came out and helped other neighbors, and that showed a lot of what we are as a community. And I would hope that would not only return, because I think it has continued a lot since then, but just remember that. And I know the council members up here have mentioned that it's important for us to take care of each other and watch out for your neighbors, especially those who are stuck inside, elderly. I have an elderly neighbor, and she's in her 90s, and we check up on her every day just to see how she's doing. And it goes a long ways, and we have to help ourselves, obviously, and sometimes we can't rely on state or feds to come and do things, and we have to do them ourselves. So it all starts with us, all starts with all of us out here and what we can do, and we'll come together as a community. We have before, and we will now. I have no doubt that we will, and we'll get through this, as everybody mentioned, and come out stronger for the best of it. So thank you all for listening to us tonight. We do have one more additional public comment on our agenda. I do have, Adam, did you want to come up and speak at this time? Okay, thank you. Anybody else from the public wish to speak?
Mayor, I have 2 emails.
Okay, well, hold on. We have, Steve would like to get up, make it,
Emails? 2 emails.
yeah, okay.
Mayor Chavez, Mayor Pro Tempore, you, council members, city staff. I've been to Ralph's like 3 times since this all began. They are limiting people to 2 gallons of milk. If it's a small package of meat, 2 packages, a large family pack of chicken, 1 package. They're also limiting bread, a package of hot dog buns and a package of bread, 2. Same thing with yogurt and some produce. I think by tomorrow, I got some bananas about 4 o'clock there. They were almost out of bananas now. I think they're gonna start limiting to 1 bunch of bananas. They're about half of the store, you're limited to what you can buy. And they are enforcing that, because yesterday I went to get some hamburger buns. I found them in the go-back cart. They have 2, and on average of 2 or 3 carts of stuff that they're taking from the customer and limiting, putting in these go-back carts. And they're doing a good job. I don't think we need to do anything. They're doing way good enough. Every day they're expanding it to something else. I went in there one day, there were like 3 cans of expensive tuna, and that was it. And I got them, and I haven't seen them since, but they are limiting also tuna, soup, anything that they're grabbing bunches of, they are limiting, and they are being very tough on that. You know, they will not allow you to go over that limit. I actually ask sometimes, trying to be a good customer instead of like other people where they just grab this stuff. And they are starting on the produce now. I saw a guy basically knock me out of the way to go get the peaches while I was talking to the clerk there in produce to ask him if there's any limits. So, I mean, people's attitudes as of today are starting to change. I applaud the markets for being tough. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, we have 2 email questions, City Clerk.
The first email is from Ms. Sarah Bannister. She just wanted to comment that the Taekwondo location is closed until further notice.
Go ahead.
Okay,
And
thank
then
you.
the second comment is from Elisa Randall. And her email, she says, I appreciate hearing the community concern and the efforts being done in the city. I'm glad to hear the city is in great financial position and the great work staff has done in regards to sickness or further mandates from the county health official, that the city is still able to adjust schedule to keep payroll, to keep moving forward. Is this directed to all staff, meaning full-time and part-time? What are you doing to support staff with hours being reduced? Where can they find financial support if their hours are not enough for their livelihood and other financial obligations? Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know that we're in a position to answer that, Mr. City Manager. I know that you've heard some input from us tonight, and you will, of course, make some decisions as far as where we move forward with City Hall at this time.
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, thank you very much for those. That was interesting, and
It's nice to know
it's
people
nice
are
to know
watching.
people are watching, isn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly.
So, that's it. Anyone else? Okay, well, I'm gonna close public comments. I just want to remind everybody before we adjourn tonight that in keeping with the theme of social distancing, we ask that, you obviously don't congregate or approach the dais at this time. I know I don't want to seem rude, but it's things that we just have to do for right now. So all of us have to get used to it. So thank you very much, and, be safe out there, and we will see you next time. Adjourn.